Hello everyone, and welcome back to Pokepaint, the series where I draw new Pokémon to inhabit my fan-made Pokemon region of Troporean. Those of you who watched the end of last video would have learned that I retracted my previous statement that I was done making Pokemon for the Troporean Pokedex, beyond our Megas and Legendaries, of course. And today is that day for these sort of bonus Pokemon to make their debut. Those extra mons come in the form of 2 that I created myself, as well as the final 3 contest winners that I just couldn't leave out. A connective through line exists in all of these Pokemon that I'm drawing today, and that's a theme that they all share, that being that they're all, or almost all of them, are inspired somehow by Caribbean folklore or animals. And as such, I just couldn't in good conscience leave them out of the Virgin Islands / Caribbean inspired Troporean region. So today we're going to start off with my own mons and then move to the contest submissions, and finally we'll do the third of our Elite Four trainers. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. For now, we have Toxetile. Our newest Pokemon was a live stream suggestion that I got way back in early December of last year. And I actually can't remember who recommended it, so if you're watching, comment below and tell me that it was you. This mon is inspired by a cone snail. It's a type of marine gastropod that has the ability to shoot out a toxin through its extendable proboscis. In my version, I took a bit of a Remoraid Octillery approach and combined the overall look with 17th century firing long-range weapons like flintlocks and cannons. This inspiration will become more apparent in its evolution. This Pokemon, as well as the other mon that I added today, both share a theme of being very pirate-y, and as such I imagine these 2 evolutionary lines being amongst the set of Pokemon used by the grunts of Team Arbor. Its purple face markings were inspired by how poisoned or ill anime characters are often portrayed with purple or blue shadows above their forehead and eyes. Toxetile's name comes from the merging of the 2 words toxic and projectile. Toxetile, the poison dart Pokemon. They shoot a concentrated toxic sludge from the hole in their shells. Shells found on shipwrecks suggest that these Pokemon were very popular with the pirates and privateers of the 17th century. When it came to the evolution, I knew immediately what it was going to look like, and that is weird. I leaned way further into the maritime canon imagery. I don't know why, but I imagined these curled up tentacle-like appendages that would look like these wheels of an old-timey cannon that, they would roll around on. Yeah, snails don't have tentacles, but unlike the first form, this mon's like 25% cone snail, 75% reared cannon monster. On top of the design, this mon allowed me to add some misrepresented types to Troporean with both poison and rock. Its name, Escarcannon, is a portmanteau of escargot, the French dish of buttered snails, and cannon. Escarcannon, the cannon Pokemon, the evolved form of Toxetile. They are extremely territorial. In the wild, they protect their underwater caves that they call their homes with explosive sludge that they fire out of their rock-like shells. They are often found on sailing vessels and are known to retain their aggressively defensive personality when captured. The second idea that I had was another thoroughly pirate-y design. I think it was inspired by the Honedge paradox form in one of Subjectively's new videos. But as soon as I had the idea, I knew exactly what it would look like. I wanted to make it look like a Cutlass, the swords used by pirates. I changed the eye placement from the original so that I could give it an eye patch. I also diverted further from the original form's art as I wanted to show the cutlassy nature of it, so I had the blade removed from the sheath. Troporean Honedge, the Cutlass Pokemon. It is said that the souls that inhabit Honedge are the souls of the sailors that were slain in battle. It is believed that these Honedges were the swords that these spirits wielded in life. Now, the evolutions of Honedge were a challenge to design. This is because there is no prominent Caribbean shields that were ever used, to my knowledge, throughout history. So with that consideration, I actually drew Aegislash first so that I'd have a better idea of how to connect the two disparate forms. When I show you Aegislash, it will become clear what I did, but for now I'll tell you that I made a few changes, particularly to the scabbards of Doublade, to soften the transition. In order to get the two swords in the base sketch to be symmetrical as possible, I duplicated and introverted the layer that the copy was on. The line art, however, was all done by hand, as one, it's not actually perfectly symmetrical. That would look weird. And in my experience, using the mirror tool on Krita can give you some less than great results. Doublade, the Cutlass Pokemon, the evolved form of Honedge. Expeditions that have uncovered the ancient swords that Doublade inhabit find that they are far older than their pre-evolved form. It is theorized that there is only a singular spirit inside of Doublade, and that the spirit inside may have once been a warrior that dual-wielded these swords. Now, to solve the problem of there being no shields in the ancient Caribbean world, I broadened my lens to encompass all of Central and South America, something that I've done many times while creating Pokemon for this Pokedex. Troporean Aegislash, therefore, is based on a Macahuetal, an ancient Aztec equivalent to the European and Asian swords of the day. I decided to go this route as in my research I discovered that the Aztecs actually had super interesting designs for their shields that I thought would make a great Aegislash shield. I sort of worked out that post-designing these, each mon was from a time period that was increasingly further back in time, and that's sort of how I stringed the evolution contextually together. A bit of story time before I share the dex entry. I actually draw a lot of these in public, like at fast food restaurants while I'm on my lunch break, as my home is a bit too far from work to go back there and get any work done. And while I was drawing this Pokemon, I was in a McDonald's, and I wasn't feeling super confident about it until a complete stranger walked up to me and told me that it looked really cool. That really boosted my confidence, because at that point I wasn't super happy with it, so after his uplifting comment, I finished it, and it actually turned out to be one of my favorite designs. So, thank you, McDonald's stranger. You're definitely not ever going to find this video, probably, but thank you. Troporean Aegislash, the haunted relic Pokemon, the evolved form of Doublade. These weapons date back to an ancient fallen civilization that existed hundreds of years before the modern Troporeans settled the region. These Pokemon are smarter and more aggressive than their pre-evolutions, as it has been discovered that the spirits inside of Aegislash were once proud warriors and strategists in a past life. So those are my Pokemon, and the last quote-unquote original mons besides the Mega Evolutions and Box Legendaries that I'm adding to the dex. That is a little sad, but now we have our 3 final picks for the Troporean region contest. The first pick goes to WimpodX on Twitter, and it is a regional Geodude line. These 3 are apparently based on Himalayan salt rock, but as their dex entries will show, WimpodX took salty to mean multiple things, meaning salty as in salt the rock, but also as in grumpy and bitter. I love the pixel art sprites that were submitted with these. It gives this line some excellent personality, as well as makes me imagine Tropore as a real game, so I always like that. I felt like I had to pick this one for multiple reasons, but the main of which was that it felt effortlessly Troporean somehow. I know it's based on Himalayan salt, which isn't found naturally occurring in the Caribbean. I don't know, maybe it's like sea salt that made me think that this was a good pick. I also like that they used orange to represent the salt, as even though orange isn't what most people think when they think of salt, anyone who's ever seen real genuine Himalayan salt crystals will know that they're often reddish in color, ranging anywhere from orange to pink. I didn't see any shiny submitted, so I made up my own, playing off the whole white salt idea. WimpodX, thank you for some awesome submissions, and I hope you like my rendition of Troporean Geodude, the salty Pokemon. It is said that these Geodude are actually an ancient version from the Hisui region era. Scientists think that this might have happened because of these Pokemon having a strong diet of crunchy salt that was found in the area where they used to live. In the modern day, they are found in very few regions, like Troporean and several more. I love that this line is a rock and fairy type. I think that was to reference the large level of superstition that a lot of people have around Himalayan salt rock. That is that, people think that it is healing or spiritually aligning properties or whatnot. I think that typing is really well thought out. I turned out to really enjoy drawing this Pokemon and used the Kanto art as a base to get the proper shapes. In the funny geometry of this stylized pile of gravel, or I guess pile of salt rock now, turned out to be super satisfying to draw. I also love the color palette and the funny little finger crystals that make it look like it's wearing fingerless gloves. And the crystal mustache, of course, is just awesome. Troporean Graveler, the salty Pokemon. While aggressive looking, those that are trained properly are pretty friendly. That being said, Graveler are infamous for acting very frustrated with their opponents, as just looking at it the wrong way can make it angry. While they can't roll, they grow salt-like spikes on their body as an extra layer of defense. I really like the addition of Graveler being irritable because of the salt. As anyone that's been swimming or sailing in the tropics for multiple days on end without a shower can tell you, that salt definitely will make you cranky. I think this Golem form was the main reason why I chose this line, as it looks super cool. I think the crystal collar looks sort of like feathery spines or flaps that you might find on a lizard or some mythical ancient Mayan or Aztec creature. I don't know exactly why, but the overall look felt very Troporean, and I loved it. It may also be the colors, the tanner tones that break up the grays, and the orange peppered throughout, with the green skin is just perfect. This may be one of the most fitting color palettes in the whole contest, and Wimpod X definitely has a way better eye for appropriate color palettes than I do. Great work, man. Troporean Golem, the salty Pokemon in the evolved form of Troporean Graveler. A powerful Pokemon known for its very dangerous behavior. Most people who hear of them believe that these Golem must be gentle giants due to their fairy typing. Instead, they are highly aggressive and will chase any people or Pokemon away. The reason may be that the salt-covered rocks on their back are known to taste great in food. Records show that Golem that trust their trainers will allow them to use the salt that their body naturally produces in food. The penultimate pick for this contest goes out to Pokemaniac on Discord, who made this Pokemon called Anjamel. It's apparently supposed to be a sort of possessed set of pajamas, which I think is a super cool idea. Not only that, it was done in such a unique way with super interesting shape language where it immediately caught my eye. I love how the head of Anjamel isn't even attached to the body, rather it's floating above, and how its floppy tag ears just are. It's just adorable. And yeah, I guess my statement before about how every Pokemon in this video feels very tropical and Caribbean in nature isn't exactly true with this guy, but I just love him. He's so cute. I also love its dex entry and how it says that some people think it may have been the ancestor to all fairy types, which makes me feel like it could be a bizarre but unlikely fitting addition to the Paleo Park set of mons. Anjamel, the sleepy child Pokemon. This Pokemon found in ancient times has a body that resembles a set of baby's pajamas that might be found in the Galar region. It was the first Pokemon discovered to possess the fairy typing, and people once thought that this Pokemon infected the DNA of Pokemon like Jigglypuff to give them the fairy type. These Pokemon are usually nurtured by their mega-evolved forms, and those who are abandoned will most likely turn out meaner than most. This single-stage Pokemon has a Mega Evolution, and It is the only one of the entries that I chose that actually has one. I love the idea of a naturally occurring Mega that was referenced in the Pokedex entry. Like, yeah, I think it technically goes against the whole, like, trainers bond causing a Mega Evolution thing. The idea of Anjamel Mega evolving itself in order to care for and protect a younger Anjamel is really cool. And then, as you'll see later, it'll take a pretty dark turn. Pokemaniac stated how this Pokemon would have black where the base form had pink, and I think it makes for a super slick looking Mega Evolution. I love the multiple arms and the cloud-like dress. Both of the Anjamel forms, I think, are an excellent look into non-biologically influenced character design, and I love the implied movement and all the differently designed arms. It's a neat touch. I don't know why, because I've never played the game, but this art style sort of reminds me of Splatoon, if you know what I mean. I don't know why. Like I said, I've never played it, so I might just be pulling that out of my butt. It might not look anything like that game, but I really do love this art style. It was a fun try to represent it in my own, and I think it's a really good fit in the Pokemon world as well. Mega Anjamel, the Awoken Pokemon. This Pokemon tirelessly babysits its base form in the wild. Some Mega Anjamel decide to abandon their Anjamel, and they take to roaming the streets of cities on their own. This culmination of abandoned Anjamel creates a bitter cycle. But before I say who the final winner is, I thought I'd do some honorable mentions. First being Kuchomp and Crocomotive by SketchTech on Discord. This awesome little dragon and crocodile-like guy was actually based off of trains, and the idea behind this concept is that these Pokemon would act like a natural form of transportation around the region, sort of like Corviknight in Sword and Shield. The second honorable mention goes to the always great Boreal Mind, a fellow YouTuber that is making her own Germany-inspired Germansburg region on her channel. If you like this, you should go check it out. Their entry was Dialopond and Driftodile, a set of crocodile Pokemon that would be fused with Driftwood, piggybacking off of the idea that Driftwood is often mistaken for crocodiles in real life, and saltwater crocodiles exist in this part of the world. Pokecat on Discord created a Pokemon that I immediately noticed because of a coincidental resemblance to an idea that I had for the Troporean region. The idea that I had was a seahorse that evolved into a, well, seahorse, or a Kelpie, even down to the water and fairy typing that they gave their own. Yeah, theirs starts out as regular horses instead of seahorses, but it's really close. I actually chose not to do mine, or this one, because I thought it would better fit with a region that I plan to do in the future. Like, way in the future, like Season 4 or 5 of Pokepaint. Their Pokemon are called Colfala, Donelpi, and Kepira. Another mon that resembles something that I dreamt up for Troporean is Cephalorb by Freshness on Instagram and YouTube. This one actually sort of looks like one of the concepts that I have bouncing around in my head for a legendary Pokemon in this region. I won't say any more about it, and I won't even confirm that the final version is going to look like this because, well, I've thought up a couple of versions and I haven't decided on a design yet, but it heavily resembled one of my designs, which I thought was really cool. The final honorable mention goes to Purple Headache and his super cute Hetomlet. This mon is a lizard Pokemon fused with an omelet. I thought that if I chose this Pokemon, it would make an awesome food mon for Troporean, and it was super close too. Part of me honestly wants to draw all of your submissions, and I could only redraw a small section of them. But alas, I've got to move on to my final pick. The final pick for the 2023 Troporean Pokedex contest is, drumroll please, Brewtle by fellow YouTuber Pewter City Jim. Their submission is awesome and super on theme with the Troporean region, and it was the main reason why I decided to do a few more winners. Here's why it's so perfect for Troporean. Brewtle is based partially on the red-footed tortoise, which is a tortoise species found in the Virgin Islands, Troporean's real-life counterpart. Not only that, Brewtle takes another genius design move that solidified its choice as a Troporean Pokemon. There are two forms, as you can see. Both brew a hot drink in their shell. One brews coffee and the other tea. This is based on the fact that the Western Virgin Islands is a United States territory, so coffee, and the Eastern Virgin Islands, the BVI, is a British territory, so tea. And as such, the most popular hot drinks of each country are represented in each side. I also love their differing personalities that really reflect each drink. The tea one looks sort of sweet and benign, while the other looks like angsty and agitated and bitter. Although yes, that's supposed to reflect how the drink is caffeinated, while the other often isn't. The bitterness of the coffee design is something that I personally really like, because I don't like coffee. I think it tastes too bitter. Just a little John Machine lore for you there. This Pokemon would of course be similar to Gastrodon and Shellos, how each form could only be found in a certain part of the region. Its unique ability is super cool too. It's called Steep, which raises this Pokemon's special attack when it is hit by a fire-type move. Brewtle, the Cuppa Pokemon. Brewtle come in two varieties, each one being specific to the different islands in the Troporean region that they inhabit. The botanicals that they produce have been used by the people of Troporean for centuries to brew hot drinks. The variety of Brewtle found on each island will usually correspond with the human inhabitant's beverage of choice. The west form is more aggressive and active, while the east form is more mellow and relaxed. So these are the awesome final additions to Troporean's Pokedex. I can't believe we're almost done, and I'm gonna get to talking about the few final episodes of the season in a second. But first, we have another addition to the Elite Four in our Poison-type trainer, Vanessa. Get it? Vanessa? Venom? Venom is it? Yeah, okay, yeah, you get it. So, yeah, the pale grunge rock artist might not feel very Caribbean-inspired, and that's because it isn't. Although, as you can tell by today's video, I love designs that make reference to their real-world inspirations, but sometimes it's best to be less strict about your adherence to real-life inspirations when you're making your fan-made Pokemon narrative. After a little bit of thinking, I came up with this gaunt, sickly-looking rock star, sort of MGK-ish, if you know what I mean. I really loved drawing this trainer and trying to represent the poison type in a not as straightforward as usual way. Alright, well, that does it for this episode of Pokepaint, and if you made it all the way through, honestly, I'm impressed. This might have been the most content that I've ever shoved into one of these videos. As stated before, we only have a few episodes left. If my plans stay consistent, which they oftentimes don't, we have like 3 episodes left, which is insane. It's honestly like a little chapter of my life ending, as when I started the series I had something like 200 or 300 subscribers, and now I have almost 10 times that, which is just crazy and a little weird and really awesome. But don't worry, all you Pokepaint fans, I'll still be posting Fakemon content once I've finished with Troporean. There will be a Season 3 of Pokepaint and a whole new region premiering at the end of the summer / early fall. But between Season 2 and 3, I have a fun little mini-series planned where I create a Legends Arceus-style ancient region of the Unova region. This series will be called Legends Kyurem. Legends Kyurem will be taking modern Unova Pokemon and creating ancient versions, along with a storyline that tells the backstory of Unova. I hope you're all as excited for that as I am, and, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy this video, and want to see more like it, then subscribe, and turn on the bell to get notified when I upload next.